Darnold's former teammate, Josh McCown, friend of the show, told our Jets reporter Rich Cimini that Darnold would welcome competition from a rookie quarterback, saying, quote, Sam would embrace it and be helpful, but he'd also go out and work hard and try to make the most of the opportunity to play this year and put it back on them and make them have to make a tough decision at the end of the year. So, Shefty, is that just the kind of thing that you say when you're in Josh McCown's position and you don't want to say what you really think, which is Darnold needs to get the heck out of there if they're taking a quarterback? What did you think of that?
I don't think much of that. Josh McCown knows how to handle himself as well as anybody in the league, and I think he knows the situation. And the situation is this. It looks like the Jets are tracking to take a quarterback at number 2. It looks like they're tracking to make Zach Wilson from BYU the pick at number 2. And so in a perfect world, you're going to continue to listen and entertain offers from Sam Darnold and to see which team is going to be willing to trade for him. Now, here's the issue, Greeny, is that the market of teams, the pool of teams interested in Sam Darnold today seems smaller than it would have been at the beginning of the offseason when many of these teams have gone out and addressed and added quarterbacks. Washington signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. Chicago signed Andy Dalton. The Rams traded for Matthew Stafford. The Lions, Jared Goff. The Colts, Carson Wentz. And so there aren't a lot of obvious landing spots anymore for Sam Darnold. So who's still out there right now? Carolina still has not addressed its quarterback position. I think it will at some point, whether it's Deshaun Watson, the draft, Sam Darnold, whatever it may be. Carolina, Denver. Short of that, there's not a lot of obvious quarterback spots. To me, a team that would make a lot of sense would be Pittsburgh. That would be an intriguing matchup where they go out and get a quarterback for the future again. But there are not the number of teams today that would be potential landing spots for Darnold as they were at the beginning of the offseason.
That's exactly right. Yeah, he's going into the 4th year of his rookie contract, which also I think complicates it a little bit for teams that may acquire him. Let me bring the rest of the crew in this morning, and that includes, as we showed you, Mel Kiper Jr. And so, Mel, as you consider all of this here, what's the first thought that jumps into your mind?
Don't give Sam Darnold away for a 3rd-round pick. I've said it all week. I think when you look at Sam Darnold, I still think he's the best option here, not drafting a rookie. But if they do draft Zach Wilson, keep Sam Darnold. Let him battle it out. Sam's going to be the guy. If Sam turns out to be Josh Allen and has a phenomenal year because he has finally some talent around him and the right coaching staff, then you can move Zach Wilson for a haul. If Sam Darnold is just okay, then he moves on as a free agent and Zach Wilson becomes your guy. But I think moving Sam Darnold for a 3 and let him go hit somewhere else, you're already by drafting a quarterback losing Kyle Pitts. You're not going to get a receiver or Pitts, receiving entity like Pitts, or a Jamar Chase, or a Devontae Smith, or a Jalen Waddle. So you're giving up 4 great receiving options for Sam Darnold by drafting Wilson. Don't compound the problem by moving Darnold and gifting him away for a 3rd-round draft choice.
What do you think of all this, Dan? As a quarterback and knowing the quarterback's mentality, Dan, what do you think?
Absolutely not. You do not have both of these guys in the building at the same time. One, if you're thinking about keeping Sam Darnold and drafting Zach Wilson, don't draft Zach Wilson. Sam Darnold's value right now should have no bearing on your decision whether you're going to take Zach Wilson or not for the New York Jets. You're taking Zach Wilson to change your franchise, to change your organization, not because you're unsure of where Sam Darnold is. If you're taking Zach Wilson, it's not because of what you're going to get for Sam Darnold. You're taking Zach Wilson because of what you're going to get from Zach Wilson, okay? Now, I have been outspoken. I completely agree with Mel. The best situation for the New York Jets is to keep Sam Darnold and trade the number 2 pick for an absolute haul. The more likely situation is that you hit on 4 or 5 first-rounders over the next 2 drafts and you rebuild your football team and Sam Darnold proves to be a very high-end starting quarterback in the NFL more than you take Zach Wilson, he all of a sudden becomes Patrick Mahomes. That is the more likely situation, but you do not keep both these guys in your building at the same time.
Go ahead. I want to let Mel. I was just so entertained by Mel's. Dominique, I think you and I both want to hear what Mel has to say to that. Go ahead, Mel.
Couldn't disagree more with Dan on that. When you had Troy Aikman and Steve Walsh They were there together with Dallas, Dan, and they ended up trading Steve Walsh, the Cowboys did, for a pretty good amount of picks coming back from the New Orleans Saints. You think about when Aaron Rodgers was already drafted in Green Bay, and he was being developed in Green Bay, Dan. People forget, who did they draft in the second round when Aaron was ready to be the guy? One Brian Brom coming out of Louisville. They brought Brian Brom into that quarterback room to challenge and be there with Aaron Rodgers, so they weren't really sure about what they had. You don't know what Sam Darnold is. He's 23 years of age. He's been through a lot. We like him. Now surround him with talent, but they don't know. This is a new GM who didn't draft Sam Darnold. Joe Douglas didn't draft him. He's been there now, but now he wants his own quarterback. Fine. You don't know what Zach Wilson's going to be. You know what Sam Darnold will be. Put them both out there. They didn't know what Walsh and Aikman would be. In fact, that preseason, guys, there were analysts saying that, hey, it's obvious to everybody Steve Walsh moves this Cowboy offense better than Troy Aikman. Well, it didn't work out that way in the end, right? They traded Walsh. Why not have Darnold, and Darnold's 23. Zach Wilson comes in. Why not find out who your best quarterback is, then gifting away Sam Darnold for a third-round pick and letting somebody else benefit from Darnold, who I think can be a really good quarterback in this league? Because you can't move on with the relationship if you're still tied to the past one. The Jets have to move on. If they are moving on from Sam Darnold, move on from him. You know, like, it's not like Sam Darnold. Dan? Who said they're moving on from Sam? I don't know. I don't know. But if they're taking Zach Wilson, they should. That's my point, Mel. Like, well, Dallas had Aikman and brought Walsh in. Does that mean that they didn't want Aikman? They wanted to see who was best because they didn't know. When they drafted Brian Brom and they had Aaron Rodgers, Dan, maybe it was because they weren't sure. Why would you draft Brian Brom in the second round when you're developing Aaron Rodgers? Okay? Because if you're not, they did. Mel, if you're not sure that Zach Wilson is better than Sam Darnold, then don't draft Zach Wilson. Trade that pick for 3 or 4. Nobody knows what these young quarterbacks will be. You can have all the intel you want. You don't know, but you know you have Darnold, who's been through a lot with a shoulder, mono, and a bad team and coaching staff. Now you got everything going. Why not give Sam Darnold a shot and then see what Wilson doesn't have to be the guy right away. Sam has to be the guy this year.